Hello and welcome to the Conference Championship edition of the Pickwatch podcast. I am Casey Joyner, the football scientist. You may remember me from my 14-year stint with ESPN where I covered the NFL and fantasy football. I'm now on the independent path via my website, thefootballscientist.com, and I'm also doing a weekly pick'em article for Pickwatch. My divisional round picks went 3-1, bringing my 2020 season mark to 178 wins and 87 losses. Here are my Conference Championship round picks. Each of these selections is going to detail which team is predicted to win and provide a quick summary of why the selection was made. The picks will also contain a confidence value for each selection, which is based on a 1 to 10 scale, with 10 being the most confident and 1 being the least confident. Now on to the picks. Let's start with the AFC Championship matchup of Buffalo at Kansas City. Last week's weather in the Buffalo-Baltimore game, it made it all but impossible to throw the ball with any consistency. But prior to that game, Buffalo had posted 300 or more passing yards in 4 straight games. It indicates their aerial prowess may be back to its early season elite form. It's a major factor in Buffalo having scored 26 or more points in 8 straight games prior to that windstorm. Buffalo has also done a great job of protecting the football as they have 0 giveaways in offense in 3 of the last 4 games, so Josh Allen is doing a much better job of protecting the football than he's done at times in his career. Now, weather contributed to holding Baltimore to only 3 points last week, but that superb performance by the Buffalo defense, it's not an anomaly. Sean McDermott's crew has held 5 of its last 7 foes to 19 or fewer points. McDermott is a defensive coach. He wants to get into those type of contests where he doesn't have to win track meets or shootouts. He can win games by scoring fewer points, having fewer points, low point games, and that's what he's getting of late. So that's a plus for him, and I think it's a plus for what the Bills want to be right now. Now, some potential problems for the Bills and why they really want to make sure the defense is playing better is that Cole Beasley's been struggling. He was injured in the Week 16 game against New England. He's caught only 10 passes for 74 yards since Week 15. Now, you add that to Gabriel Davis being out for this contest and Zach Moss being out for the rest of the season following ankle surgery, the Bills have more than their share of offensive injury issues. Now, as important as Beasley is to this offense, the Moss injury may be just as impactful. The Bills' rush game has been nearly non-existent the past 3 games. They've posted only 206 yards on the ground in that span. Their rush defense has also been an issue. I think they're funneling teams toward the ground game, and it's helping keep the score low, but they've allowed 313 rushing yards in the playoffs, and they've given up 140 more rushing yards in 4 of the past 5 games. Tell you why that's probably more important than it would normally be for Kansas City here in just a moment. Kansas City's biggest factor in this contest is whether or not Patrick Mahomes is going to clear the concussion protocol in time to play. He practiced fully in the Chiefs Wednesday walkthrough. Players who are in the concussion protocol can't officially be listed as practicing in full. So he's technically listed as limited, and it was just a walkthrough, but he was out there for all the plays. So he's on track to return. It's possible that could change, but Dimes to Dollar says he's probably going to be out there come Sunday. Whether or not he does return as expected, the Chiefs' late season stretch this year, it indicates they look like they're returning to what they did late in 2019 during the late season, for like the last 10 weeks of the year during the late season, regular season, and during the playoffs. They went more run heavy than they had earlier in the year. There's a lot of stats that back that up, but they really went with a more run heavy approach. And it looks like they're doing some of that this year because they posted 117 or more rushing yards in 2 of the past 3 games, and they posted fewer than 280 passing yards in 2 of those contests if you take out that meaningless Week 17 game against the Chargers. That slowed down the game approach. It's a notable factor in the Chiefs holding the Browns rushing attack to only 112 yards last week. Browns are one of the best running games in the league, and the Chiefs held them to only 112 rushing yards. It's also part of why Kansas City allowed fewer than 100 rushing yards in 5 out of 6 games from weeks 11 through 16. They're slowing down the game some on offense, and they're also just playing a lot better rush defense. That's not good for Buffalo because Buffalo is now down to Singletary, and that's pretty much it in their backfield. And because they're not stopping the run as well, I think Kansas City will be able to lean on the ground game more and not ask Mahomes to throw the ball 40 or 50 times when given his injury situation. You really don't want him to throw any more than he really has to. Now, most offenses that the Bills face, they don't have anyone capable of keeping up with Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley. But the Chiefs can obviously counteract that with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. So they can go toe-to-toe with that vertical passing game if the Bills start to go in that direction. You add that to Beasley's injury, the Bills' rush defense issue, the Bills wanting to play more of a low-scoring game, but maybe not having quite the firepower to be able to do it, and this game is in Kansas City. I'm just looking at it and saying as long as Mahomes plays, the Chiefs are the pick in this one, so I'm going to pick him here with a confidence level of 4. Now we head to the NFC Championship game of Tampa Bay at Green Bay. The Week 13 bye was the best thing to happen to Tampa Bay this season. They'd lost 3 out of 4 coming into that contest. It's for a variety of reasons. They'd had 7 giveaways in those 3 losses. They gave up 92 points, and they gave up 1,376 offensive yards. So they were playing poorly in many ways on both sides of the ball coming into that contest. Kind of an aging team. It was a great time for them to get that bye, because since that bye, they've won 6 consecutive games. They've scored 30 or more points in 5 straight games. They've held 4 out of 6 foes to 23 or fewer points, and they have 9 takeaways in the past 4 games. So they got well rested at the right time. Now, Tom Brady understandably gets the bulk of the attention on this club, but Tampa Bay head coach Bruce Arians recently told Peter King, even though the Bucs are thought of as a pass-heavy team, he basically said he wants Tampa Bay to still be able to punch teams in the mouth with the ground game. He wants to be a hit you with the ground game and then go over the top. That mindset has resulted in the Bucs racking up 269 rushing yards in 2 playoff games. Arians also knows the value of slowing down the ground game. You've got to make the other team not be able to run the football, as Tampa Bay has held 13 out of 18 opponents this year to under 100 rushing yards. Now, having the league MVP under center makes it easy to think of the Packers as a pass-centric offense. The reality is, Green Bay's at its best when it operates a ground-heavy attack with counterpunch vertical passing. It's the story of Rodgers' career. That's when he works best. Ground-heavy, and then he throws over the top. That's been the case the second half of this season. The Packers have racked up 149 or more rushing yards in 5 of the past 7 games. I think they had 120 yards in one of the other games, so they've really been doing quite well on the ground. And this approach, when combined with Rodgers' elite ability to protect the football, it's why Green Bay had 0 giveaways in 11 games this year. 0 giveaways 11 times. And they had 1 giveaway in 3 other contests. So 14 times this year, they either 1 or 0 giveaways, and most of the time it was 0. So they do a superb job of protecting the football. I don't think Tampa Bay is going to see 4 giveaways like they did last week against Breeze. Packers defense has also been stingy against the pass. Green Bay hasn't allowed a single foe to tally 300 or more net passing yards in a game this year, and they held 6 teams to fewer than 170 net passing yards. Green and Gold defense has also been very opportunistic of late, 14 takeaways in the last 11 games. You can run the ball against Green Bay, but their history this year has been you're not going to throw the ball against them. You're going to have to do what Arians says he wants to do, run the ball a lot, but I don't know that if you've got Tom Brady in this offense that you want to funnel everything through your ground game. So it's really a tough thing for Tampa Bay, because what kind of offense do they want to be? Now, Tampa Bay posted arguably its most convincing win of the season this year in a 38-10 triumph over Green Bay in Week 6. And they're playing better now in many areas, as noted since the bye. They've done a lot better in a number of areas. But consider this. Over the past 2 weeks in the playoff games, the Bucs have allowed 669 offensive yards and 43 points to a Washington offense that was racked with injuries. McLaurin was hurt. They had their running back injuries. They were they were being piloted by a 4th-string quarterback. So you're talking the 3 most important players on that offense are hit with injuries, or again, you're playing a 4th-string quarterback. Heineke was not a 3, he was a 4. Kyle Allen was the 3 for most of the year. So you're talking that's how bad that offense was talent-wise, and yet they're allowing that Washington team to put up points. And New Orleans, this great powerhouse offense New Orleans has. Well, you know something? Drew Brees evidently was dealing with the rib injury that we knew about, the broken ribs. He was recovering from that, or they were still kind of sore as it seems. He also had evidently a torn rotator cuff. He had a plantar fascia injury. This guy was a banged up 40-some-odd-year-old quarterback. Michael Thomas was also somewhat banged up. Taysom Hill was out for that contest. Latavius Murray was out for that contest. So that New Orleans offense was not the typical New Orleans offense. And yet against these 2 injury-racked offenses that are missing a ton of talent, or in Washington's case, just doesn't have a lot of talent under center, they're still giving up 669 offensive yards and 43 points. And now you're facing the Packers. Packers don't have any major injuries. It looks like A.J. Dillon's going to be able to play this week. The rest of the offense is perfectly healthy. They're going to have a 3-headed running back crew. They've got Devontae Adams is maybe the best receiver in the league. You've got Alan Lazard playing well. You've got Valdez-Scantling able to put up an occasional big play. You've got Tunyon at tight end. I mean, this is not a good situation for the Bucs defense to be in, because the Bucs defense has had some issues of late where they've not been playing quite as well in some areas of late. So when I look at that and say the Packers don't have any injury limitations of that nature, they're playing at a much higher level back than they were back in October. They have home field. Rodgers is able to offset Brady. If Brady decides he's going to throw the ball, you know what? Rodgers can do the same thing. You can still do a lot of things with this offense. I just see more paths to victory for Green Bay. I can't see Tampa winning this, but I just see more paths to victory for Green Bay. So I'm going to take the Packers in this one with a confidence level of 5.